Good afternoon, everyone from Munich. My name is Christian Glomb. I'm with Siemens Technology, and in the next few minutes, I would like to talk about our contribution to Eclipse IoT, and the presentation is entitled Quick Start Your IoT Projects with Eclipse Thingweb and EdiTDor, which is our contribution to Eclipse IoT. And I added another I to the IoT, and that is for industrial IoT, because I want to focus a bit on the industrial Internet of Things. To tell you a bit more about the details, I would like to start with an introduction to the Web of Things. So Web of Things is a standardization activity driven by the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, and it aims at not introducing yet another IoT protocol, but it aims at harmonizing the heterogeneous landscape in the Internet of Things. The standardization is ongoing for, well, let's say 5 years almost. About 2 years ago, we reached preliminary milestone, having some, well, recommendations out. So some W3 standards. And what is it about? So in the IoT, you often are dealing with a challenge of integrating things, of integrating devices, of integrating different protocols, of integrating, let's say, dialects of certain protocols. You're dealing with different data models and things like that. So often you end up starting again and again, depending on your IoT project. That was the motivation for the Web of Things standardization at W3C. And as I said, the motivation is not to introduce yet another IoT protocol, because then it would be the nth plus one IoT protocol, but to rather talk about some glue between the heterogeneous protocols, data models, and well, standards that are out there. And in the end, we want to bridge the IoT silos, the data models, and the protocols. Vision: come to a common thing model for building IoT apps, which means facilitate the integration in the heterogeneous landscape of the IoT and get faster to what's really important, that is the services and the applications that's running on top of the whole stack and the whole system. In W3C Web of Things, we defined several building blocks. The most important building block is called a thing description. The thing description is a JSON LD document, and it is a central instance for describing what you have in your IoT landscape. To bridge the gap from description to really physics, we define something called binding templates, which means that you actually bridge to the protocols that you have, like CoAP, MQTT, or whatever you have out there, and also bridge to platform features that you have in your application. We define a scripting API, so a way for facilitating application development on top of the whole Web of Things stack. And very recently, we also introduced a discovery in the Web of Things ecosystem, which mostly deals with a thing description directory, so a central instance for hosting the thing descriptions. So as I said, the thing description is a central element in the Web of Things. So let's talk about it a bit. In the thing description itself, and you will see some examples of the thing descriptions later on, we define so-called interaction affordances, which is properties like what values can I expect from my IoT device or my IoT service. We define actions, so what can I really trigger on this device? How can I interact with the device? We define events, so non-triggered let's say, events that happen from the device. So the device has a possibility to send them sporadically, and recently becoming more and more important, a links section. So how is a thing described by a thing description related to other things in your IoT ecosystem? This is how a thing description looks like. As I said, it's a JSON-LD based document defining the interaction affordances after a header. So in the header, we have some basic information about a thing or service. Then we're going into the interaction affordances. And you see here the forms field, and the forms field then actually relates to the actual protocols. So it bridges then to the what we call binding templates. In addition to thing descriptions, we also recently introduced a thing or thing models, which are more or less the same than thing descriptions, but are lacking the actual instance information. So for example, we are lacking the security information, how to access a device or a service. And of course, we are lacking the forms field because it should serve as some kind of template for formulating the thing descriptions. Just to show you about more about the forms field. So for the forms field, we have really standardized descriptions how it should look like. So how you should really describe your protocol endpoints. We already have some quite major description for the Modbus template provided by Cristiano Aguzzi from University of Bologna. We're currently also working on a very formal description for bridging the gap towards OPC-UA. This will be provided by Etienne Rosignan from STIR 5. And of course, this is a growing system, and we are heading towards having more binding template descriptions in the future. Okay, so after this brief introduction to the Web of Things, let me go to our contributions to Eclipse IoT. And the first one is the ThingWeb. In ThingWeb, we promised, let's say, multiple implementations. At the moment, we have only provided one that is called node-wot. Node-wot is a reference implementation for the Web of Things standardization. It includes, or it features the latest thing descriptions, the latest scripting API, and also several binding templates. We have some self-hosted ones like HTTP or binding templates for HTTP CoAP and MQTT. And we have some external ones, for example, Modbus, OPC-UA, as I told you before. Everything is implemented in TypeScript, so it's, I would say, web developer friendly. You can run it standalone or as modules from NPM packages. With that, and I will show you that in the demo, you can set up your own Web of Things instance and then operate to your actual things and services, and well, make something more value out of the whole the devices and the services you have. We know about one commercial usage. Netzo.io told us that they are partly using node-wot, and I hope they will continue to do so and also contribute. At the very beginning of ThingWeb, we also promised to provide a thing description directory, so an instance for hosting, for also storing the thing descriptions that you have in your ecosystem. We haven't done that yet. We started over, to be honest. We went back to standardization. So at the moment, we are about to finish the specification for the Web of Things discovery. We know about 2 open source implementations. So one is LinkSmart from Fraunhofer, and the other one is provided by University of Madrid. And maybe, but this is really a maybe at the moment, we will add our implementation also in the near future here. And that will be then a front end towards a graph database, because we think we should store thing descriptions, and I forgot to mention that, as triples, because the JSON or LD document already represents triples. So then you are easily enabled to do, let's say, semantic searches. Okay, so Web of Things thing description, we think it's a quite good thing, and a lot of it is described there. However, when you go to the recommendation, you will end up in reading more than 100 pages. And we know, and I know, that this might cause frustration and really increases the entry burden. For that, we started another project at Eclipse IoT called the editor, and you see the TD here in this word, so it refers to an editor for thing descriptions. We started that project along with Bosch, and hope we can continue to do so. So what is the editor all about? As I said, it's an editor for thing descriptions. So for writing new thing descriptions or thing models, for rendering existing ones, for editing, updating, and so on and so forth. Just a few technical notes. It's running in the browser as a progressive web application. And as stacks behind, we have React, Tailwind, CSS, and Monaco. The use case that I would like to show you in the demo is support for the engineer. So how can you use the editor to create a thing description such that a new device can be delivered with a thing description? How can you design a thing description to retrofit existing devices, or how can you design a thing description to connect to cloud services? So this is actually the scenario that I have here. And so it's IoT. So it's IoT because it's dealing with a coffee machine, which is not really industrial. It's IoT because, well, it might be a bit artificial, but we're dealing with OPC-UA. So we assume that we have an OPC-UA server running on a coffee machine, which is a bit strange. But I think for demonstration purposes, it really fulfills the goal. So you want to monitor your coffee machine with the help of a website. So you're a web programmer and you're good in implementing HTML and JavaScript, and you want to connect OPC-UA, so your coffee machine running OPC-UA server, to a web page. So this is usually not, so this is not possible because browsers do not understand OPC-UA. They can handle HTTP or WebSockets. What you can do, of course, the classic way, you can start an OPC-UA client, like here, the UA expert, and find about the data points, and then think about how to really connect it to your, let's say, web instance, to your cloud instance, to your web page, to your user interface. This is a setup that is a straightforward one, not very surprising, of course, for some people here in the round, but which is something that you can implement with our contributions to Eclipse IoT. So first of all, of course, and this is not very, well, I would say surprising or overwhelming, we have a gateway in between, so a protocol translator, and we're using our node-wot implementation for doing the protocol translation, for implementing the gateway. A bit special here is that we describe both ends of the gateway, so both southbound border as well as northbound border with the help of thing descriptions. Because as I said, this is a central format for describing things, regardless of what protocol you're dealing with. And it's really baked into the whole system. So whenever it comes to thing descriptions, then you can, we call it, consume them with our implementation, and you can expose them with the help of our implementation. For coming from Node OPC-UA to a thing description, we fortunately have a tool, and this will be provided in maybe a couple of months to the community, that allows you to create a thing description from browsing an OPC-UA server. So from an OPC-UA node set, you can generate a thing description. You can then put that thing description to the editor, edit it, update it, delete stuff, add stuff. And you, of course, can then directly consume it in Node OPC-UA. But what I want to show you here is to go one step more. That is to store the thing description in a thing description directory and then do a discovery of thing descriptions directly from the application. And the application in our case is the web interface. So let's go to the demo. First of all, we have here the editor. So you can run this editor, the editor from this URL. So you're starting it as a blank editor. And as I said, fortunately, we have a tool that's generating a thing description from browsing the OPC-UA server. So the OPC-UA server is here. So we can connect with the UA expert here, and you will find the object tree here in this OPC-UA server. We will start here at the point of the coffee machine, and everything below the coffee machine will be browsed into a thing description. I already did that before, and we have the thing description here in this document, and we can then directly copy this document to the editor and have a look at it. Okay. Sorry for that. Okay, so here we go. So on the right-hand side, you will find a rendered version of the thing description, and you can sort the list here also. So you will find here all the interaction affordances. In our case, we have a lot of properties in our thing description. We have the header information, which tells us, okay, we're dealing with an OPC-UA server, and we also find information about the security. Okay, so this thing description, of course, cannot be consumed by a web application because we're dealing with OPC-UA, not HTML. So that's why I already put this thing description to a node-wot instance that's running in the background. And that instance is generating a northbound thing description as depicted here. Yeah, we can also select everything. Copy it to the editor. Unfortunately, it's not very well formatted, so let me format it quickly for you. But anyway, we can already see here the rendered version of this thing description. Yeah, and again, as I said, we can have a look at the interaction affordances. So back to the slides. We're here at this step. So we generated a thing description from the node set of the OPC-UA server. We put that thing description to our node-wot instance. So to the consume step of the node-wot instance. And the running node-wot instance is then exposing a thing description on the northbound interface, already having completed the protocol conversion. We can edit the thing description here in the editor. And the next thing would be to put this thing description then to a thing description directory. Okay, so the thing description directory is from LinkSmart, so provided by Fraunhofer. It has a quite nice Swagger UI. And since we're at the moment lacking a direct interface between the editor and the thing description directory, we're operating everything here from the Swagger UI. So what you can get here, okay. sorry, everything is taking a while here at my side, is the description of the thing description directory interface. So this is a standardized interface and standardized by the Web of Things discovery task force, and I already carried that out. And you see, we already have some thing descriptions here. Yeah, and what would we like to do is, well, take our thing description that was generated by our node-wot instance and put it to the thing description directory. So we can do it here. Sorry, yeah, this is the right one. Try it out. And when we're putting a thing description, we also have to provide the ID for that. And the ID is something here inside the thing description that's uniquely identifying it. Sorry, I don't find it. This is here. Because then we're able to identify the thing description inside the thing description directory. Okay. So we're putting it there, and it's done. And via the same interface, we can also get the thing description. Okay, should try it out. Execute. And we got not found. Okay. So this is a sorry, demonstration effect. So actually, I would that would have been stored here inside the thing description directory, and it would be available. So then the next step. So for the moment, unfortunately, I don't have it in my thing description directory, and I don't know why. The next thing would be to come to our actual application. And for the application, we provide a so-called browser bundle in node-wot, which means that you can that you have a script that you can directly include into your web page. So we have here a web page called Smart Coffee Machine, and that is running the script that is generated by the node-wot instance. And one of the main points here in the script is that it's consuming a thing description that can be found somewhere. In my case, it would have been the thing description directory. Unfortunately, this is not working at the moment. So I'm taking a fallback, let's say URL. And once you have that, you can have your coffee machine running in your web application, and you can monitor it. So sorry for the demo effect here. For some reason, I couldn't register my thing description. Summing up, I have a device out there in the field. I have some strange protocol that I have to deal with, and I want to connect to this, let's say, strange or from the perspective of a web world, unknown protocol from a web application. I first generate a thing description from that. I can edit the thing description. I can put the thing description to a node-wot instance, so to a gateway instance. Node-wot will consume it, expose on the northbound side a thing description featuring HTTP protocol. I can also download that, put it to the editor, modify it, then move it or upload it to a thing description directory and let it discover by my application. Okay, so I think I'm done. Sorry again for the demo effect. If you have more questions, please refer to this people named here. So first one is Daniel, who's responsible for the node-wot implementation, Felix responsible for the editor, or to myself as a kind of self-appointed coordinator for Eclipse IoT at Siemens. Thank you very much. Okay. So question 1, how do I get started if I want to use editor? So if you want to get started with the editor, then the best thing is to go to this URI that I showed you there. So it's running on a server hosted by Eclipse. You can find that, I think, at least on the project webpage of editor. You should take a thing description that is delivered by node-wot, and then you can see what's inside, what you can add, what you can modify, and what you can then, with the help of node-wot, make out of it. Question 2, why is editor not able to format documents and directly connect to the node-wot instance to get the document? Yes, you saw that in my demo. So this is actually an issue to be put up, and yeah, you saw that from my demo, which was definitely not well polished. And does the browser communicate directly with the device, or is a device in between? No, there's no device in between, but we have the node-wot instance in between. So node-wot is, well, let's say our software stack, and you can run that on an edge gateway. Yeah, so Raspberry Pi or whatever you have there. Well, you need something. So there's no way to kind of generate a script that's dealing with Node OPC-UA or any other protocols directly in the web browser. I know that a lot of people would like to have this, me too. So to really have a JavaScript that you can include into your web page and then do everything there, but due to, I would say, this is browser limitations, this is not possible. So you have to go the way via a gateway. Okay, so would be time for one more question if there is one. No more questions, so thank you again. And if you have questions or would like to get started with node-wot over the editor, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you very much.